Good morning once again, and thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome to Twitter Jabs 2. My name is Agi Uwase, and we are continuing the conversation on Uganda Airlines probe. Just like we mentioned, in the Twitter Jabs one earlier, it's been going on for quite some time, and yes, it's something that hasn't settled at the moment. The other day, the Minister of Transport, General Katumba Wamala, also appeared before cosase, and Ms. Jennifer Bamturaki did, snub about 2 meetings with cosase. So yes, a lot is going on at the moment, but joining me at the center of this conversation to give us an insight and some assurances here and there is Captain Edward Francis Babu, who is a veteran NRM cadre and an experienced aviation expert. Good morning, Captain.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, to start with, what are your thoughts, on the probe in regard to the Uganda Airlines? Do you think that it's going to yield any fruits?
Well, I think Ugandans also, they are misusing in the social media. First and foremost, Parliament has got a function to carry out. And in their work, they receive auditor reports, Auditor General's reports, and they receive information from different people. So what has happened here, they received an Auditor General's report where there were some losses, where the airline was not running as well. Now the Auditor General gives this to Parliament. Parliament gives it to the cosase.
Yes.
The cosase is a committee on statutory enterprise and statutory. What's cosase? Yeah, cosase. Statutory enterprise and parastatals, if you like. That's the word. Now, they look into it and they have to invite Uganda Airlines and say, listen, this is what we have received. What is your take? What is your view about it?
Yes. Uganda
Airlines begin to answer, and a few things begin to come out. And it comes out to an extent that what was in the Auditor General's report was basically mismanagement.
Yes.
And they wanted to also know if there is a bit of corruption.
Yes.
These things come out, and the cosase begins to ask these questions. And when they reach the Chief Executive Officer, they also receive a report that the Chief Executive Officer was not appointed by the board. That also comes in. So their job is to find out. Their job is not to do anything more than that. Now, what apparently I've seen is that everything was now exaggerated. It got out of hand, if you like, by the media, not by cosase. What the media has done has put ears and noses and to make it sound a bit juicy. But basically what it is, these people have investigated. They have found a few things. And people are questioning methods which were done. Now, all over the world, the powers of the executive are in the president by the Constitution. He is the final arbiter. He chooses a minister on his behalf to carry out the functions of that particular ministry, if you like. And people do not seem to understand. If you go to America, there's what they call an executive order. The president can sign an executive order on a particular topic, and even appoint, by the way.
Yes.
Now, if that is the point, that means our president also has a form of executive order, which you people have labeled directives. It's an executive order. An executive order, he can act as a minister, a president, as a particular, because it comes out of him. The powers of that ministry comes out of the president. So we've got to understand that. Now, whether it is the norm or not, the question would be, you have written an executive order, Mr. President, but you are creating a bigger problem. Now, the people should talk to the president.
Who are the people?
The ones who are in charge. For example, people who give advice to the president. When you swear as a minister, and you swear with the Constitution, one of the things you talk about, you're supposed to give the president counsel. You're supposed to discuss with him. According to the president, he discussed with the minister, and he then wrote a letter. I'm told the letter was written around the 24th of April. Now, he says he was satisfied that from all his sources that this particular person was fit to be the chief executive officer. Now, here is where the minister and the board should have come in and said, Your Excellency, what you have done is very good, but by doing so, you can create a bigger problem. And let me tell you what the problem is. In the working and the corporate method, the board is the one which runs an organization.
Absolutely.
A corporate body, a limited liability company. And if they do so, it means everybody under that board must be appointed by the board.
Yes.
So that it can make the working easier. If the president appoints the chief executive officer, the same president appoints the board, you create a conflict.
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, this is where I think counseling the president should have come in. And those who give him advice did not do a good job, if so. What apparently happened when that letter came, it was kept on the table. And nothing happened. Until the same people had hired a firm,
Yes.
Price Waterhouse,
Yeah.
to carry out an interview at quite an exorbitant price.
98 million.
Yes. Now, the next question is, what qualification does Price Waterhouse have in interviewing an aviation group? That's also a question mark. Are they qualified also? So all these things can be asked. And I think this is where everybody has gone wrong. We are all excited, calling Senyonyi all sorts of names. Senyonyi is a mere chairman of a committee. The committee's got several people on it, and
Yes.
all of them were asking questions. It was not Senyonyi alone.
He's the one being threatened. But before
No, it's not. I don't
not
think.
right,
I don't
definitely.
think it is even a threat. I think people are putting out concerns depending on who they are, and I've just been hearing you. Some people in their tweets were saying all sorts of things. No. Let's be careful. First and foremost, I can call Senyonyi and say, but Senyonyi, an airline is a sensitive industry, like a bank. The service industries are sensitive because of competition and their marketing levels. If you give out a bad picture of that airline, you make them lose business. Now, this also should be explained. And then it is up to the committee to say, wait a minute, what is bad and what is good in this interview? But you don't go there and order them, because they've got power by the Constitution and by the procedures of Parliament
Yes.
to carry out this work. So I think the whole thing has been spoiled. I was with this Honorable Senyonyi on one of the meetings, and he even asked me if I could go to his committee. I said, yeah, if you invite me officially, I will come. Now, at the end of the day, the next question is, should the state enterprise have this in camera? In other words,
Yes.
not have the media and all that there.
At the request of Ms. Jennifer Mamturaki, the CEO.
No, Madam is free to ask that, but that is not the procedure. The procedure is decided by the chairman. Now, there are certain areas where the committee is closed and they don't allow it. For example, anything to do with the security of the country, the Parliament has a standing instruction. You don't allow media in there because state security could leak. Now,
Yes.
the airline is not state security. And unfortunately, the questions which were asked the chief executive, she's the one who volunteered the information. First of all, she comes to the committee and tells them, no, but see, my qualification, Makere has completely refused to give me this. What's the name? The secondary school body.
Charambe Girls?
No,
When
the
she went to
body.
school.
The body says they have never given me my advanced level. Now, that should have been, I will bring the qualifications to you. You didn't have to tell us.
Really?
It is the lady herself who volunteered this information to go on media.
Does that in one
I'm
way
coming,
make
I'm
her
coming,
not fit?
I'm coming. Now Makere tells us she has never come for her qualifications. And she didn't have to spoil our name because she's on our computer nowadays. You just press a button and we give you your qualifications. And the vice chancellor said, come and collect your papers. Then they even put the booklet of the Makere University,
Yes.
the time she graduated. And she's got those qualifications. Now, the rest is really something that we can talk about. And we will now talk about aviation. First and foremost, just to give you confidence and everybody, Uganda Airline has the best technical group. They've got very good pilots. They've got very good engineers. They've got very good technical people who are very well trained by reputable schools. So that area is good. The airplanes will fly. There's no problem at all. The problem now comes, is management good enough? And that's debatable. We should sit down and look at it. And it should not be hidden.
Okay.
Because Uganda government has put in nearly $1 billion to start that airline. And they will continue putting in money for the next 7 to 10 years until the airline breaks even.
And now, given the fact that His Excellency Yoweri Museveni is the one who appointed Ms. Jennifer Wamturaki, even after 40 people had applied for this same position, doesn't it take away power from the board of directors of Uganda Airlines? And also, General Katumba Wamala, the Minister of Works and Transport, mentioned that he has no power to question the president's authority in this matter. That is what he said while appearing before cosase.
Now, two different things.
Doesn't this take away...
Two different things there.
Yes.
To question the powers of the president is a different argument. To give counsel to the president is also a different argument. So, whilst I have a lot of respect for the honorable minister, did he give counsel to the president that by using that method, he will create a conflict between the chief executive officer and the board? Secondly, who hired Price Waterhouse to do this?
The Uganda Airlines board did.
Number three, they did that because they had not received the letter from the minister. Now, there's a small problem, there's a small hitch there. When did the president give them the letter to try and appoint Banturachi? Point number one. Point number two, who hired Price Waterhouse when? Was it before the letter?
Before the letter, because
no.
people had even applied already.
No. The letter was written in April, darling. This thing
but
was...
it was unveiled after...
This was hired much later. No. I've been following. The letter was written in April, and I think one of the people gave us even the date. And this hiring of these people, actually, what they wanted to do, let me tell you, from my assessment, they realized that this could create a problem, and they wanted to shroud it in an interview on the board. Bring Banturachi and the other people who might apply, so that the board can carry out its work. But His Excellency said, but this is an executive order. It's a directive. I told you that. So 2 days or 4 days before this interview could take place, they actually, the president called and said, look, I insist. I've already sat down with you. I've written a letter with you. Please get the lady in there. Now, whether right or wrongly, they had discussed it. Getting Price Waterhouse with this 98 million is also, there's a question mark. So all these things, as I'm telling you, that's why you need a committee to probe, so that they can establish what is wrong and what is right.
And they are doing their work, and the fact that, you know, they're being interrupted with these threats, and also asking that the media be off this probe. Do you think that actually cameras shouldn't be there when they are querying?
I want to be sincere with you. I know Honorable Tom Butime is an absolute gentleman. I don't know if he was misunderstood.
But Honorable
wait. That is Senyonyi. Let's listen to Honorable Butime also. Did he really threaten, or did he request? Now, I think there's also misunderstanding. I've been seeing a lot of excitement whenever there is this kind of thing, and that's why probably it's going to become difficult to even talk to somebody, because tomorrow it'll go on social media and turn what you have said around and spin it around. So I think I've known Honorable Time for many years. I've talked to him. He's a very gentle man. And I find it, I'm sorry, I do not agree that he can threaten anybody. He might have questioned why this was going on. But I don't think he can threaten anybody.
Well, then why would Honorable Joel Senyonyi put it out that, he was threatened by Honorable Tom Mutime? Why would he implicate him that?
That seems to be the norm nowadays. When people talk to others, they seem to go to media, use media to make their point. I think Honorable Mutime, one of these days, should be, and he's the kind of person, he didn't even come back to the media and say, no, this is not what I said. He just kept quiet, which means that we should really be very careful. Spoiling, that man is an old man, he's been around for some time. By the way, he knows a lot about media too. He's not an ordinary person. So I've got a feeling we've got to handle this carefully. I think all this said and done, there's only one thing I can talk about here, is that the president using his directive to appoint Bantulachi without going through the board for an interview, that is going to create a conflict, and the chief executive officer will never have peace working in that airline with the board.
Yes.
The president has now to think twice, what do I do to remove this conflict? Either he will cancel them or he'll have to speak, because the whole airline, and I want to say this, already is anti-chief executive officer. Yeah. This is the only thing I can see. Everything else is something we can find solution to. It's not very difficult.
Okay, now, do you think that this particular probe should be put off camera? Because that's the question I think
No,
you haven't answered yet.
No, there's no reason to put it off camera. The lady has proved she's got the qualifications. I think that was the biggest thing. I don't think, because Auditor General puts out losses of the airline and says there's something not going right, there's mismanagement and so on and so forth. And the same person has been acting, and that's the reason why she came in the limelight. It is something that has to be investigated. It is the money which belongs to the people of Uganda. Yes, I agree, there might be a little bit of damage to the reputation of the airline.
Of the airline, yes.
Yeah, but that is something we can explain. And by the way, by doing so, there will be transparency. It might actually enhance the airline. When there is transparency, well, our airline was investigated, they found out where the problem was. And let me talk about these losses also. This airline is in what they call a startup mode. It started in 2019, 2018,
yes,
2019. Now, 2019, an airline starts, a huge sum of money is used to buy aeroplanes. That is something we'll talk another day. They bring aeroplanes here. There's a lot of capital outlay. Secondly, we immediately get COVID. The airline is packed. When an airline is packed, you lose money. Now, in developed countries, the government has intervened and given the airline the money they lost during COVID. The question here, has the Uganda government helped our airline during this period? That is something yes to be answered, and I think cosase should try and find out. So, the airline losses, what are they? Are they because of these exorbitant salaries? No, the salaries are not exempted. They are not exempted.
But Uganda Airlines, because during the COVID-19 pandemic, we weren't working because we're at home. But you see, I'll just give an example of Rwandair rather. They cut down on the employees' salaries. But it's a lot different with the Uganda Airlines, because if you are not making profits, if you're operating on losses, why should your officials still be earning 87 million? You are, plunged into losses of about billions of shillings. So where do they get the money to operate this airline?
First and foremost, let's get one point clear.
Yes.
The money you're talking about is the market rate for any airline that they pay these executives. That is the amount. It's about $20,000 to $25,000. Secondly, some of that money is what they call the market rate. The next question would be, should Uganda, at the level of our economy, pay that kind of salary? This is somebody that we're supposed to sit down and review. My answer is no. We should give them a reasonable salary, which I'm not refusing they should be paid. But let's look at our state enterprises that we have. The chief executives, what do they get? Most of them are getting between 30 million to about 50 million, which is about $10,000 max. Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Now, to pay $25,000, in my opinion, is wrong for a country like ours. So what we should do, and that is very simple, get experts in setting up salaries in our economy and make the chief executives of most of these enterprises about the same. So, to me, the chief executive airline of Uganda Airline should not earn more than 30 to 35 million shillings, like other enterprises. Now, the people who should earn more money, unfortunately, are the pilots and the engineers. Those, that salary has to be at a certain level if you want that airline to run very well. That said and done, the state enterprise should recommend to Parliament and therefore government that these salaries should not be more than 30 to 35 million for the chief executive, and the others should fall under. Now, let me give you an example. The international salaries of United Nations, United Nations, African Union, they pay their salary in dollars, and they're between $3,000 and $10,000. So, in there, if you pay this Uganda person that level, you're putting them at a very high level by our economy. Now, that said and done, people have said, they have got 6 aeroplanes, they have got this. No. Let's reason it according to salary structure that we can be able to pay as an economy. Our economy is not very good, is at a certain level. Pay them within reason and give reasons why you're doing that.
Yes.
What apparently happens, the salary she tried to inherit was not meant for a chief executive officer, was meant for a task force. You see, when the airline started, I was one of those who was called to give them a view. My view is that they should have a consultancy group, about 5 people or 6, and no board. And that international group would now start the airline and bring it up to a certain level. Then after that, they would also work out what the salary should be in this economy of ours. But people have taken advantage of the ignorance of a lot of our people in government and tried to recommend the task force salary for themselves, which in my sincere opinion should not have been so. Now, this is something we can also discuss by getting expert in setting up salaries for an airline which is starting up in an economy in our area. And that is something we should look at very carefully.
Who however, is going to be looking at this? The board?
First of all, we have experts who can set up, who can advise the board. Yes, it must be the board, but the board should get experts to give them a paper on how salaries should be set. And it can be done. There are experts who do nothing but salaries. They take the living standards of the country, they take all the economy of the country, they take all sorts of things, and they come up with salaries, which they gave it to the board. The board then studies it and says, yes, this is reasonable, this is what we should pay. Now, the board is everything in an airline or in an enterprise, is the one which is got to decide.
Yes.
And this is, I think, is where the problem is.
But, okay, now it has all the power, to make all the big decisions on the airline. But if the president is taking away, I don't want to say taking away the power, but if the president is appointing this chief executive officer, which is the mandate of the board of Uganda Airlines, and you in some way, you're taking away their power, and I think you're compromising, the whole situation. They feel like they're not in position to make any big decisions.
No, the mandate is not carved in stone. The man who appoints them still has power, residue powers, which he can use to advise the board. In the statutory instruments, any instrument of a company or in a company law, the shareholder, who in this case is the Minister of Works and the Minister of Finance, with the head of state, who is the source of that power, can actually carry out, like I told you earlier on, and advise. However, I would have advised the head of state, unlike other people. Say, but Mr. President, when you do that, you create conflict between the chief executive and this will affect the running of the airline, and eventually you will not have a problem. Now, even now, where it has reached, my advice to the president would be, Mr. President, this lady is very nice, she's not a bad person, get another enterprise and bring somebody who will be interviewed by the board, with you advising the board what to do, and let us start from a new chapter. The lady is really, I have no problem with her. I can even be appointed in any position. She's got the qualification. She's got a degree. However, today I think we should talk about the training. A lot of people have totally misunderstood different types of training. And our colonialists were very bad. They kept something behind and they gave us only the academic route. In Britain, they had another route through the guilds, through the enterprises like aviation and many others, in which they trained people. And the reason that happened is that aviation came from the military, the Air Force. And therefore, all the syllabuses to train a pilot, to train an engineer, came from those enterprises. Never got into the academic system until very recently, when they started getting those qualifications at the par with a normal degree. And some of the universities now have attached to it aviation schools that not only train pilots, but they also train and they give them degrees. Now, this is something new that has come up now. But previously, there was another way of training. For example, the commercial training of marketing in aviation is done by an organization which puts together all airlines called IATA, the International Aviation Transport Association, where all airlines got together, got an association which helps them to do commercial work, marketing and so on, including ticketing. So those train in that system. Now, for pilots and all, we have some international civil aviation organization which sets the standard for pilots, for engineers, for building aeroplanes, and so on and so forth. Now, they also have certain qualifications in there. When I was doing flying, it was the Civil Aviation Authority of England that gave us examinations. And they came and took us in the aeroplane and tested us. Now, that was not part of a university, that was a different system. Now, in training managers, it was the same way. The person came into the airline at the bottom, he was trained in different departments, or she, and eventually went into the levels of directors of marketing, directors of this and that, so forth. So, as much as we have minimum qualifications, which are degrees and whatnot, there are other qualifications that is required for you to be a head of such an enterprise.
Yes.
Now, this is something also that should be explained. Unfortunately, a lot of our people are in a hurry. We seem to not to listen, not to want to find out, but we judge, and we judge wrongly sometimes. So the head of state can be advised. He's a human being. We all need to be told, especially about subjects that are not common. They are not something we deal with every day. And even the parliament, the committee of parliament. At the end of it all, what are we looking for? We're looking for a good airline. We need that airline in this country. It is a strategic industry, and we need people to explain. Now, these small things, which media seems to exaggerate and magnify, are things that can easily be solved. For example, the Honorable Minister, Mutime, we can talk to him. He's a nice man, an absolute gentleman, in my opinion. And Senyonyi should really, instead of running to the police, he should have said, listen, can we talk on a cup of tea? I see this thing has become very common in Kenya. They now have handshakes. Now I hear the bishops in Kenya asking the people who competed to have a cup of tea.
They probably will. We've seen that happen.
I think time has come for us as Ugandans to stop fighting over issues that we can solve by talking.
I do think that cosase is only doing their job, and I want to think that they're doing it in the interest of the airline.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
But they must also learn that you can do it with a bit of class.
How classy are they not? I would love to know that.
No. We are talking now.
Yes.
We are talking nicely. We are not quarreling. I mean, even Madame Bantulachi can say, Madame, please, we are not here to make your life miserable.
Yes.
Can we please, maybe explain one or two things, and you can do it with a little bit of. What I call culture?
Culture?
Yes.
Or maybe they can be civil.
Yeah, and I think you ladies demand that we should behave ourselves all the time. And I think Even members of the committee should have a little bit of
class.
Mm.
Well, earlier you're talking about training. Now, Ms. Jennifer Bamturaki was an AD to Mr. Cornwall Mulea, the former CEO of Uganda Airlines, prior to her appointment. So, was this some kind of inception or training for Ms. Jennifer Bamturaki to take over?
I really want to be very clear. That was not enough. The training I'm talking about takes a little bit of time, and you need to have gone. You don't just come from nowhere and you say because you've been an assistant of somebody, you're now the hottest cake on the block. No. We need the new kid on the block has to be somebody who's been trained for some time in an airline that has been established for some time, not an airline that has been there for 2 years. That is totally unfortunate. There was an argument many years ago when I was in Nigeria between the British universities and the American universities. The people in Nigeria, like in Uganda, are very fond of saying the British education is the best because you leave the university and you start working straight away, according to them. The Americans, when this thing took a bit of time, then the American ambassador came on board and said, listen, we have a different system of education. Even if you go to Harvard, Yale, all our best universities, when you come to a corporate organization, you start from the bottom. And you go climbing slowly. It does not take one day. It takes some time before you become an executive. In America, they've got blue-collar and white-collar jobs.
Yes.
And he explained it will take between 0 to 10 years before you can become a chief executive officer. It can even take 15 years. Now, to become a captain of an airline, you start from 0. And they say a good captain should have between 5,000 to 10,000 hours. Now, those hours can easily be calculated. If you took London as 8 hours from here, every time you fly, and you have to rest for another 8 hours, you find that a year you cannot make even 1,000 hours. It will take you a long time.
Yes.
So it will take you between 0 to about 15 years before you can become a captain. Now, if it takes a captain so many years, what about the chief executive who is ahead of all that airline? How many years should that person take under training to become a chief executive? Now, these are things that we need to understand.
But sorry to cut you short. So doesn't that make, the appointment of Ms. Jennifer Bamturaki questionable?
Well, I don't know the basis. You see, one thing you must do, and especially you who are in media, we should respect the president's decision, but then advise. Looking at what you've done, sir, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Whilst appointing a minister is somebody who is going to work with the qualified permanent secretaries, the chief executive officer does not have a permanent secretary. Therefore, Mr. President, I advise that this person should have extensive experience before you can, not only the intelligence reports like you told us, but should have a little bit more. And this is something that His Excellency should have been advised. And if you fail to advise, then you get somebody else to do it if you fear to advise him. But some of us do have a lot of respect for the president. I would still advise him, even on this camera, and say, Mr. President, that was,
So are the presidential advisors not doing their work or lacking in a way?
No, not really. I don't think. I think yes, maybe she can be a trainee. If they had accepted my advice that they bring qualified people, somebody like Emirates. The man who started Emirates is an Irishman. He started it with a few people, and they trained the people in Emirates Airlines. If we got that kind of group, this lady can be trained by that group, and after some time, she can become the chief executive officer.
So this shouldn't have been the right time. But anyway, I'm still talking about...
No, you're learning very fast.
Now, we do see that on two occasions, Ms. Bamturaki disobeyed direct orders from cosase to appear before the committee. Now, doesn't this tantamount to a penalty?
It's unfortunate. And whoever is advising her, she's written a letter saying that she's very busy going to Guangzhou and London. to try and get the airline moving. And I think that's a letter which I read. I would have advised, Madam, please go to cosase and try and see if you can send some of your officers, because the officers ready to go there would be marketing mainly, and other people who are required. Now, one thing people have never understood about aviation industry, there's a lot of intelligence network. They know everything going on in Uganda Airlines. They know everything about the person who is going to discuss with them.
Yeah.
Therefore, if the person has got a slight problem, they will know it. And when they go to discuss with this person, they will discuss with this person without giving them the due respect they are supposed to get.
Yes.
Therefore, in my sincere opinion, the cosase thing is very simple. All they wanted were the confirmation of the qualifications and a few others. And I think she needs people to advise her also.
Doesn't
Not
she
lawyers.
have the advisors though?
Not lawyers. You don't need lawyers for this. You need somebody to advise them, to answer and accept, yes, maybe here something has not gone right. Yes, here we need to do this. But I don't think we need to go that far. I think she needs just to calm down and stop using kingdoms and, I'm told some people came from the kingdoms and all this.
Toro Kingdom.
Yeah, I don't know where they came from, but these were saying, look, this is our daughter. These are totally uncalled for. What we need to do is to sit down. I don't think cosase is really that harmful. I don't think so.
Yes.
I think so, just because when an audit report is done, sometimes they don't have enough information to say, listen, we need to know what happened here. Now, you need to explain what happened here was this. What happened here is this. We lost money because of this. That's all they want to know. I don't think people have understood the Auditor General's report, and they should not be afraid, unless this is...
Then why isn't she, heeding to these, calls and, snubbing cosase meetings?
Again, that directive, she feels a little bit more important.
Or maybe intimidated.
No. She feels more important. Nothing can happen to me,
Isn't that too bad for this country and, for the airline as well, to know that someone has such power?
It's very unfortunate. Whenever you feel you cannot talk to a committee of parliament, even me, who is not anywhere, if parliament calls me and I'm a Ugandan, I should respect that committee.
Yes.
Even if I don't agree with what they're saying, I'll go there and explain that meanwhile you called me, but unfortunately you shouldn't have called me. You tell it to them, but you must explain. A committee of parliament is Uganda. Uganda is us. You voted.
Yes, I did.
You're one of those who has got an interest. So you should not allow anybody to play with your interest. Yes.
Let me read out a tweet, and this was from promoter Balamba Ugahara. I'm sure you know of him, being an NRM cadre. You do.
No. I'm a founding, not cadre. I'm a founding person of this organization.
So this is the tweet that he put out. He said he assured the head of cosase, and that is Honorable Joel Senyonyi, that no matter what he does, Jennifer Bamturaki will remain CEO Uganda Airlines. He will do completely nothing about it. And he also further went on to say that he wants her salary to even be increased. Where do the section of Ugandans, get this assurance that there is nothing you could do about it?
This gentleman is free to say what he wants, but what I want to tell him, he did not help the lady. He made it even worse. In the eyes of Ugandans, they are laughing, those who understand. And not only that, some of them actually pity the lady now, because this is totally uncalled for. You should try and help the lady instead of destroying her. What he did, although he might sound that he was helping, he wasn't. He actually created a worse problem in the eyes of some people in this country. But to the committee, he's irrelevant.
Doesn't it also, create some kind of lack of confidence in the citizens of this country, you know, saying, after all, I mean, cosase will hold all these probes and all these meetings, and nothing fruitful will come out of it. Doesn't it, in one way or another, you know, compromise the authority?
You know, I've learned nowadays, you know, in the many when I was young, I could say these things openly, but it's just unfortunate. Somebody should say something like that, and I think a lot of Ugandans should just ignore that. I can say something that will bring it out more clearly, but since we are on a national TV, I'd rather not.
You'd rather not. Okay, so as we wind up the conversation, the way forward, you know, moving forward, what do you think that Uganda Airlines, you know, should, the structures and, you know, other measures that could be put in place to ensure that they are back on track so that, you know, we don't see it go defunct again?
There's something in corporate body, they call it damage control.
Yes.
Whatever damage has been caused, we can find solution to. What you need is a very good person who can handle the whole situation in a better way. Answer the Auditor General's report, answer the cosase questions, and then go out there and remarket the airline with people who are really good. Now, an airline is run on two things, finance and marketing. Yes. The marketing people are the ones who paint the picture of that airline, are the ones who sell the brand, are the ones who sell the seats on the aircraft. Whilst Ugandans are patriotic enough to fly with Uganda Airlines, we still need these expertise to make it even better. If you don't have them as individuals, you can hire an international firm that can sell our airline. Now, there's no airline that doesn't have problems. And this is something that a lot of people do not realize. Every airline has had a few problems, and every time you have those problems, you should improve your management.
Yes.
Airlines are actually built on mistakes. Whenever there is a mistake and there is a conflict, the airline becomes even better. So what we need to do, what we've got to learn from this, how can we improve our airline? And we need experts who can come out there and say, we made a mistake here, we will not make it again. And this is human. It's human. Baganda have a very nice saying, that even the most beautiful person is bound to have a flaw. No murungi tabulako kamogo. You know, something small. As you know, even our feet are not equal.
Yes,
one
absolutely.
is bigger than the other, the hand one is bigger than... Same thing with the airline. You're bound to have a few problems, but these problems can be solved. And that cosase, in their report, and this is where it becomes important, they have to structure it in such a way that all the things they have had should be put as reasons for trying to improve the airline. In other words, these conflicts are good at this early age of the airline. Imagine if the airline was already doing very well and the fall was bigger.
Yes.
You know, my friend said, when you are a poor man, when you fall down, you're near the ground. When you're a rich man, you fall from up. So imagine if the airline was very good, it would fall from high up, down. But here we've fallen very little. We can find a solution to this. And I think the president should, and his team, should find a solution to this, get a group of people to help the airline to get out of its these are small problems. They are not big.
They are workable.
Yeah.
More reason why, you know, Ms. Jennifer Bamturaki and, you know, the officials at Uganda Airlines should be able to heed to the calls of cosase and not snub them.
Correct. I think it is unfortunate for anybody to try and snub a parliament. I'm not even going to call it cosase. I'm not even going to be personal about the chairman. It is Parliament that has called you. And by the way, when they finish, they are reporting to the August body.
Yes. And
the August body will vote on that. Even if you give them 40 million shillings, they know what is wrong and what is right. And they will vote for it. And I think not even waste time, not even to lobby. Let's do it right so that this airline can do very well. And already they are doing very well. Between here and Nairobi, we are doing very well. Between here and Dubai, we're doing very well. So I think what we need to do is to even do better than what we're doing now. Lastly, and very importantly, and what people have not said, the staff of the airline, all the employees are not happy. We need to make them happy. We need to have somebody who can cheer them up. So we need a cheerleader here. We don't need people who are making everybody miserable, workers, people who work in the airline, people outside the airline. No, we need somebody to change the mindset of everybody.
Is Miss Jennifer Mtoraki that person?
I don't know. I don't know her that well. It would be unfair for me to even describe. But we need somebody who has got that appeal and charisma to change the whole thing.
Okay, thank you so much, Captain, for joining us this morning. It's been, that great insight. Very much appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. But I think people should calm down. It's not that. It's not do or die.
Okay, well, that has been Captain Edward Francis Babu, and he's a veteran NRM cadre and an experienced aviation expert, and has been weighing in on the matter in regard to the Uganda Airlines probe. Well, that is all we had for you in this segment of the Twitter Jabs 2. This is Sunrise at Sea. Don't blink.